The sun was setting over the bustling streets of Chicago, casting long shadows across the crowded sidewalks. Claire Thompson, a single mother in her early 30s, tightened her grip on her purse as she walked into the sleek car dealership. Her heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. For weeks, she had been saving every penny from her job as a waitress to buy a reliable car. Not just any car, a necessity for her life. With her son, Ethan, starting kindergarten next month, she needed something safe and dependable to get him to school and herself to work. "Good evening, ma'am," greeted a sharply dressed salesman, his smile as polished as the cars around them. "How can I assist you today?" Claire hesitated, feeling out of place among the gleaming vehicles that seemed to mock her modest budget. "I'm looking for something practical," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Something under $10,000. The salesman's expression flickered, but he quickly recovered. "Of course, we have a few options that might interest you." He led her toward a row of older models tucked away in the corner of the showroom. Each car carried the weight of its age, their once shiny exteriors now dulled by time. As they approached a silver sedan, Claire felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't perfect, but it was within her price range. She leaned closer, inspecting the tires and running her fingers along the hood. The salesman droned on about mileage and warranties, but Claire's mind was elsewhere. She imagined driving Ethan to school, singing silly songs together in the morning rush. This car could be the key to stability, a small step toward a better life. But then came the first blow. After taking a test drive, Claire returned to find the salesman on the phone, his tone clipped. He hung up and turned to her with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but there seems to be an issue with this vehicle's paperwork. It may not be available for sale after all." Claire's stomach sank. "What do you mean? You showed it to me just minutes ago." "It's a misunderstanding," he assured her, though his eyes darted nervously. "Let me see if we can find another option for you." Hours passed, and each new suggestion fell short. Some were too expensive, others had glaring mechanical issues. Claire grew increasingly frustrated, her patience wearing thin. Finally, when she asked to speak to a manager, the atmosphere shifted. A tall man in a tailored suit emerged, his demeanor cold and dismissive. "We don't have anything suitable for your needs," he stated bluntly, cutting off her protests. "Perhaps you should consider public transportation or returning when your financial situation improves." Humiliated, Claire stormed out of the dealership, tears stinging her eyes. She couldn't believe how quickly the dream of owning a car had slipped through her fingers. As she stood on the sidewalk, clutching her purse, she noticed a group of people watching her curiously. One woman gave her a sympathetic look, while another whispered something to her companion. Claire straightened her shoulders and walked away, determined not to let anyone see her cry. That night, back at her cramped apartment, Claire sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at bills spread out before her. Ethan slept soundly in the next room, blissfully unaware of the struggles weighing on his mother. Claire sighed, rubbing her temples. She had always prided herself on being strong, on doing whatever it took to provide for her son. But tonight, doubt crept in. Was she failing him? Her thoughts drifted to her ex-husband Daniel. They hadn't spoken in months, not since their bitter divorce. He had left her for someone else, a wealthy socialite who lived in a penthouse downtown. Claire hated thinking about him, but sometimes anger wasn't enough to drown out the pain. The next morning, as Claire prepared breakfast for Ethan, a loud engine roared outside. Startled, she peeked through the window and froze. Parked directly in front of her building was a sleek black Rolls-Royce, the kind of car that turned heads wherever it went. And stepping out of it, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, was none other than Daniel. Claire's breath caught in her throat. What was he doing here? Their interactions since the divorce had been minimal, limited to awkward exchanges during child support payments. Yet here he was, standing confidently beside his luxury vehicle, as if flaunting his success. Daniel glanced up and spotted her at the window. His lips curved into a smug grin, and he raised a hand in greeting. Claire instinctively pulled back, her heart pounding. She didn't want him to know how much his presence unnerved her. Still, she couldn't help wondering why fate, or perhaps karma, had brought him to her doorstep. Daniel's arrival was like a storm cloud rolling into Claire's already turbulent life. She watched from the window as he adjusted his cufflinks, his movements deliberate and self-assured. He glanced around the modest neighborhood with an air of disdain before turning his attention back to her building. Claire clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. What could he possibly want now? Ethan bounded into the room, his cheerful voice cutting through her tension. "Mommy, can I go outside?" "No, sweetheart," Claire said quickly, pulling him close. "Finish your breakfast first." "But there's a cool car out there," Ethan exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Claire forced a smile, though her stomach churned. "It's just a car, buddy. Let's focus on our day, okay?" A knock at the door confirmed her worst fears. Daniel had come upstairs. Claire hesitated, then walked to the door and opened it just wide enough to block his view of the apartment. "Claire," Daniel said smoothly, his tone dripping with false warmth. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "What are you doing here, Daniel?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I thought we could talk," he replied, leaning casually against the doorframe. "Catch up. It's been a while." "We don't have anything to talk about," Claire shot back, her jaw tightening. Daniel's expression shifted, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Actually, we do. I've been thinking about Ethan, about how much time I've missed because of everything." Claire's heart raced. Was he serious? Or was this another one of his manipulative games? "You haven't exactly made yourself available," she countered. "Not when it mattered." "That's why I'm here now," Daniel said, stepping closer. "I want to be more involved in his life, maybe even take him for weekends. He deserves better than this, Claire." Her blood boiled at the implication. "Don't you dare judge me or my ability to raise my son," she snapped. "You abandoned us, remember? Left us for your shiny new life while we struggled to keep a roof over our heads." Daniel raised his hands in mock surrender. "I'm not here to fight. I'm trying to make things right." "Right for who?" Claire demanded. "For you? So you can ease your guilt?" Before Daniel could respond, Ethan appeared behind Claire, peering curiously at the man in the doorway. "Who's that, Mommy?" Claire knelt beside him, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. "This is Daniel, sweetheart. Your father." Ethan's eyes widened. "The man in the fancy car?" "Yes," Claire said softly, her voice tinged with sadness. "But he's leaving soon, aren't you, Daniel?" Daniel crouched down to Ethan's level, ignoring Claire's glare. "Hey there, champ. How about we grab some ice cream later, just you and me?" Ethan looked up at Claire, unsure. "Can I, Mommy?" Claire hesitated, torn between her instincts to protect her son and the knowledge that Ethan deserved to know his father, if only to understand why she had left him. "We'll see," she said finally, standing. "Now, Daniel, if you'll excuse us, we have plans for the day." Daniel straightened, his smile fading. "Fine, but this isn't over, Claire. We need to figure out what's best for Ethan." After he left, Claire closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. She felt a mix of anger, frustration, and fear. What did Daniel really want, and how would his sudden reappearance affect their fragile lives? Later that afternoon, Claire took Ethan to the park, hoping to distract herself from the chaos swirling in her mind. As they played on the swings, she noticed a familiar black car parked nearby. Her stomach dropped. Daniel was watching them. When they returned home, Claire called her best friend, Sarah, for advice. "He showed up out of nowhere," Sarah asked, her voice incredulous. "What does he want?" "I don't know," Claire admitted. "He says he wants to spend time with Ethan, but it feels like there's more to it. Like he's trying to prove something, to himself or to me." "Be careful, Claire," Sarah warned. "You know how manipulative he can be. Don't let him walk all over you again." Claire nodded, though she knew Sarah couldn't see her. "I won't." "But what if Ethan starts asking questions? What if he thinks I'm keeping his father away?" "You're doing what's best for him," Sarah reassured her. "Just trust your instincts." That night, as Ethan drifted off to sleep, Claire sat by his bedside watching him. His small face was peaceful, unaware of the complexities of the adult world. She vowed to protect him no matter what, even from the man who claimed to be his father. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel's return was only the beginning of something far more complicated. The days that followed Daniel's unexpected visit were filled with unease for Claire. She found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, half expecting to see the sleek black Rolls-Royce parked outside her building again. But Daniel didn't return, not immediately at least. Instead, his presence lingered in subtler ways. A text message asking about Ethan's schedule, an email forwarded from their lawyer requesting updates on child support arrangements. Each communication felt like another thread pulling at the fragile fabric of her life. Ethan, however, seemed intrigued by the idea of spending time with his father. "When is he coming back?" he asked one evening as they sat together coloring. "I'm not sure," Claire replied cautiously, keeping her tone light. "Why do you ask?" "He said we could go to the zoo," Ethan said, his eyes bright with excitement, "and eat ice cream." Claire forced a smile, though her heart sank. How could she explain to a 5-year-old that the man promising him adventures was the same man who had walked away without a second thought? "We'll see, sweetheart. Maybe someday." But Daniel wasn't willing to wait. A week later, he showed up unannounced at Claire's apartment, this time bearing gifts. A toy car for Ethan and a bouquet of flowers for Claire. "These are for you," he said, handing them to her with a smug grin. "Peace offering." Claire stared at the flowers, torn between throwing them in the trash and accepting them as a gesture of goodwill. "For Ethan's sake." "What do you want, Daniel?" she asked, her voice cold. "To take Ethan out this weekend," he replied. "I already cleared it with my schedule. I thought we could make it special, just the two of us." "And what about me?" Claire shot back. "Do I get any say in this?" "You're his mother," Daniel said dismissively. "Of course you do, but don't you think it's important for him to have a relationship with his father?" Claire clenched her jaw, knowing he had a point, but hating him for using it against her. "Fine," she relented. "But I need to know where you're taking him and when you'll bring him back." "Of course," Daniel said smoothly. "I'll keep you updated every step of the way." That Saturday, Claire watched anxiously as Daniel arrived to pick up Ethan. Her son was dressed in his favorite outfit, clutching the toy car Daniel had brought him. As they drove off in the Rolls-Royce, Claire felt a pang of guilt and fear. What if something went wrong? What if Daniel decided he wanted full custody? Her worries only deepened when Daniel failed to send her updates throughout the day. By evening, she was pacing the living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. When they finally returned, Ethan was beaming, chattering excitedly about the zoo and the ice cream sundae he'd shared with his father. "He let me sit in the front seat of the car," Ethan exclaimed, his eyes sparkling. "It was so cool, Mommy." Claire managed to smile, though her relief was short-lived. As Daniel stood in the doorway, watching them with a satisfied smirk, she realized he had achieved exactly what he'd set out to do: win Ethan's affection and undermine her authority. Later that night, after Ethan had fallen asleep, Claire poured herself a glass of wine and sat alone in the dark. She replayed the day's events in her mind, searching for answers. Was Daniel genuinely trying to reconnect with his son? Or was this part of some larger plan? And how far was she willing to go to protect Ethan from being caught in the middle? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Startled, she opened it to find Sarah standing there, holding a bottle of wine. "I figured you might need reinforcements," Sarah said with a sympathetic smile. Claire welcomed her inside, grateful for the company. Over glasses of wine, she confided in her friend about her fears and frustrations. "He's playing games," Claire said bitterly, "using Ethan to get to me." "Maybe," Sarah agreed, "but don't let him win. You're stronger than that, Claire. Don't give him the satisfaction." As the night wore on, Claire began to feel a renewed sense of determination. She wouldn't let Daniel control her or dictate the terms of their co-parenting arrangement. For Ethan's sake, She would fight to maintain balance and ensure that her son never doubted where he truly belonged. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions for Claire. Daniel continued to insert himself into Ethan's life with calculated precision, always arriving in his Rolls-Royce and showering their son with gifts, expensive toys, designer clothes, even promises of private schooling. Each gesture was a silent jab at Claire, a reminder of the financial disparity between them. But what worried her most was how quickly Ethan began to idolize his father. "Daddy said I could learn to play soccer," Ethan announced one morning, bouncing excitedly as he ate his cereal. "He says I'm going to be really good." Claire forced a smile, though her heart ached. "That sounds fun, sweetheart, but remember we have rules about schoolwork coming first." Ethan nodded enthusiastically, too caught up in his excitement to notice her concern. Claire sighed, realizing that Daniel wasn't just trying to win Ethan's affection, he was building a narrative. "I'm the fun parent, your mom is the strict one." Her fears deepened when she received a letter from Daniel's lawyer outlining a proposed custody agreement. He wanted joint custody, with Ethan spending alternating weekends and holidays with him. The document read like a business proposal, cold and clinical, but its implications hit Claire like a freight train. She immediately called Sarah, who listened intently before offering advice. "You need to fight this," Sarah said firmly. "Get your own lawyer. Make sure they know you're not backing down." "I don't have the money for that," Claire admitted, her voice trembling. "Then find a way," Sarah urged. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about Ethan's future." With no other options, Claire reached out to a local legal aid organization. After explaining her situation, she was assigned a pro bono attorney named Lisa, who assured her they could build a strong case. "We'll focus on stability," Lisa explained during their first meeting. "Show the court that Ethan thrives under your care and that disrupting that would harm him emotionally." Relieved yet overwhelmed, Claire threw herself into preparing for the custody battle. She gathered evidence of her commitment to Ethan, photos, report cards, letters from teachers, and documented every interaction with Daniel, noting instances where his priorities seemed more self-serving than child-centered. Meanwhile, Daniel escalated his efforts. One evening, he arrived at Claire's apartment unannounced, holding a stack of papers. "I thought you should see this," he said smugly, handing her a glossy brochure for an elite private school. "I've already submitted Ethan's application. They loved his audition video." Claire stared at him in disbelief. "You did what? Without even consulting me?" "It's for his benefit," Daniel replied coolly. "He deserves the best opportunities, Claire. You can't give him that." Her anger bubbled over. "How dare you decide what's best for my son without talking to me first? This isn't about Ethan. It's about proving you're better than me." Daniel shrugged, unfazed. "Maybe. But if it means giving him a brighter future, then so be it." The confrontation left Claire shaken, but it also strengthened her resolve. She refused to let Daniel dictate Ethan's life or undermine her role as his mother. On the day of the custody hearing, Claire dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that conveyed professionalism and strength. As she sat in the courtroom, clutching Lisa's hand for support, she felt a mix of fear and determination. Across the aisle, Daniel looked relaxed, confident in his advantage. When the judge asked Claire to speak, she took a deep breath and began. "Your Honor, I may not have wealth or luxury, but I have something far more valuable. Unconditional love for my son. I've sacrificed everything to provide him with a stable, nurturing environment. Taking him away from that would do more harm than good." Her words resonated with the judge, who ultimately ruled in her favor. While Daniel was granted visitation rights, primary custody remained with Claire. As they left the courthouse, Claire knelt beside Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "We did it, sweetheart. We're staying together." Ethan hugged her tightly, oblivious to the weight of the victory. "I love you, Mommy." In that moment, Claire realized that no matter how hard life became, she would always find a way to protect her son. Call to action. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Claire's resilience? Could you relate to her struggles? Let us know.